Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. It's a very happy day for me because I'm going to be doing a back-to-back tasting of two brand new raw pu'er teas to understand the intricacies that Terroir makes and the difference in flavor that can come about by just less than 200 kilometers difference in the picking of these teas. So, are you ready? We've got a lot to get through today. I love doing back-to-back tastings. Here we go. Tub Highness. This is our first 2020 cake pu'er tea this year. This is an Yiwu from Gua Fung Jai. Gua Fung Jai, one of probably the most famous village areas in Yiwu. We're going to dive into that in a bit, but let's check out that front cover first. There you go. Tub Highness, we're going to be talking about why we picked this Mandarin duck sitting in a bath and pampering him or herself. Courtesy of Celine, of course, the artwork. I hope that you enjoy it. She puts a lot of love and effort into her artwork. And I have to say, you know, people often sort of expect that we'll be releasing our pu'er teas sort of around the sort of June months, because that's usually the time it takes to select the tea, to press the tea, to let it dry properly, because it needs to dry for a long period of time. Otherwise, the tea becomes compromised. And then for it to be shipped over to us, it could take from picking in April, May, June, yeah, sort of July sometime, June, July sometime. But because of the fact that we taste the Malcha many times, and Celine and I really think about the artwork and think about, you know, the character of the tea. That's why there's always an extended period. So we're coming at you from late September. This is our first 2020 cake of the season. Tub Highness Yiwu Gushu. Let's quickly scope this tea. So this is spring 2020, picked in April. The cultivar is the Daiyejong variety, which is a catch-all term for big leaf variety tea. But obviously, every single area will have their own microgenetics. They all come from older tea trees, these cakes, and therefore they'll be grown from seed. And so each pocket of the mountains, of the different parts of Yunnan, will have their own genetic groupings, their sort of microgenetics, and that means that the cultivar is an heirloom cultivar. The origin of this is 100% Gua Fung Jai. Now, Gua Fung Jai is the most famous Yiwu village, very expensive village. The story behind finding this tea, well, I've been trying to search for Gua Fung Jai for a while. We've tasted many samples, and we've either knocked them back because, well, it's the two reasons. Is it good enough for the price, and how high is that price? So the price of Gua Fung Jai is very high. It's a much sought after mountainous village area of Yiwu, and so the prices are very high. And even though you can have great tasting tea, I'm always doing that sort of price to experience balance and trying to work out whether or not it's worth its bang for its buck. So we've been tasting for many years, and one of the producers we keep knocking back every single year, and I spoke to him and we had you know, long conversations. He checked out our YouTube stuff, and he was very into what we were trying to do in terms of spreading the information and knowledge. And so I think we got a very good deal. It's still an expensive tea, but we got a very good deal on this. This is Gua Fung Jai, 100% in Yiwu. That's a small village area, very remote, only sort of a few kilometers away from the Laos border. It's far east in Yunnan, in the Bana area, and just a famous remote village. And the reason why it's so famous is because it has old arbor trees, ancient arbor trees. These trees, we don't want to call it Gushu. It's probably more in the region of 150 to 200 years. So it's Dashu, it's old tea trees. We're not going to call it ancient arbor unless it's above 200. And the area, I don't know if it's the production by the Yao minorities there, but that area, the soil, the microclimate, whatever it is, that all makes up that catch-all that we call terroir, has got this Yiwu character, sweet, which is what we're going to be comparing, the sweet Yiwu character, but with a lot more complexity and structure and depth than a lot of other areas, or village areas in Yiwu, that maybe have more of sort of soft, easy drinking, sweet deliciousness, but Guafungjai adds that little bit of complexity and depth in general. The picking and processing, as I said, this is dashu from old tea trees, 150 to 200-year-old estimated tea trees. It's produced entirely by hand, fired by hand by the Yao minority people. And it goes through the standard pu'er processing, which is picking, wilting, shaching over in wok, so fried. Then it goes through a rolling phase, then it goes through a resting phase, then it goes through a sun drying phase, and then it will be tasted as mao cha. It will be selected, the huang pian will be taken out, the yellow leaf will be taken out, and then it will be compressed into cakes. Very importantly, compressed and then left to dry at a slow rate so that it's not, we're not trying to speed up the drying, but having a nice slow drying period. And then it is wrapped for us. And the elevation of Guafungjai around 1,200 meters. So we're going to be doing a tasting back to back. I love back to back tastings because you can really tease out the intricacies and differences of teas much easier when you taste them back to back. We're going to be doing a back to back with another release, so we've got a double header weekend here called Paradise Snapper. Here you go. You can check the cover. The turtle on a swing, which has been draped with flowers. I think there's a little flower. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the turtle is wearing a little tiara of flowers as well, and swinging up to bite that citrus fruit from the tree. A really lovely design. I really love this sort of minimal design that Celine has done in terms of the colors. It almost feels like it needs it's a coloring book. You could sort of go and color in the leaves, but when we tasted the mao cha, and we're going to get onto the tasting notes, we felt like this really suited it. We wanted it to be crisp, clear lines, because when we tasted the mao cha, it just had a very character which was very clean and crisp and mineral. Let's see if it translates, because we haven't tasted this since it was mao cha, so this is the first time for me tasting. A little bit shooting from the hip as usual, but yeah, usually the mao cha character moves and transforms slightly, but does have a similar characteristic once it's pressed into a cake. Right, let's quickly scope this tea season. This is April 2020, actually from the 10th to the 17th of April 2020. The cultivar, this is a blend of teas from two different origins. The blend is Jingmai and Herkai, and the Jingmai cultivar tends to be more medium leaf, so we call it the Zhongxiao Yezhong variety, so a medium leaf variety. Again, heirloom, and the Herkai is going to be under the catch-all Da Yezhong, again heirloom with their own microgenetics. I have to say there's a typo on this, my bad. Inside it says 2020 tea, but on the outside, I don't know what was going on when I was finishing up this artwork, but I've written 2019. I only realized last night when I opened up the tongs, I was like, oh no. So anyway, it's one of those little errors that makes it more collectible maybe. So this is a blend of Herkai and Jingmai Gushu tea, 300 to 400-year-old estimated. The picking and processing is going to be very similar to the Yiwu tea, but because it's being made by different minorities, by the Dai and Bulang minorities, they're going to have a slightly different way of processing. The temperatures are going to be slightly different. The way that they wither is going to be slightly different. So that is going to be a contributory factor to the difference in the taste. Elevation on this is about 1,400 meters for Herkai and 1,600 meters for Jingmai. So what we're doing today, by doing a back-to-back tasting of this, is we're taking tea which comes from the same country, the same province, the same area of that province, Sichuanbana, although, okay, Jingmai is technically just outside Sichuanbana. It's in the Pu'er region, but it's pretty close to Sichuanbana area. And so what we're doing is tasting the difference that just a couple of hundred kilometers makes, less than a couple of hundred kilometers makes, to the taste of the tea. And that would all be thrown under the idea of terroir, so the soil, the elevation, the climate, the microclimate, the surrounding ecosystem. Gua Fung Jai has a very, very diverse, biodiverse ecosystem. So the differences that the natural environment makes to the tea, even like which side of the mountain the village is on. So therefore, what part of the day's sun the leaves get. All of those aspects that affect terroir, and also the processing, the natural processing of the different tribes, different minorities. That's going to have an effect as well. And so it's just remarkable. With all teas, origin is probably the most important factor in terms of guiding you to making your tea selections. But with pu'er tea, especially Sheng PuErh, raw pu'er, as pu'er lovers out there know, the delight is how different just small distances make to the taste of the tea. And anybody who says, oh, I tried pu'er, I don't like it, really, you need to try different areas because they are very, very different. So we're tasting east side Xishuangbanna with west side Xishuangbanna and a little bit of Jingmai PuErh County as well. Right, let's dive in because we have a lot to get through today. Let's check out these leaves of the Gua Fung Jai Tub Highness double wrapper, as you can see. And yep, as I recall from the Maucha, this has got a darker look to it. We're seeing like, oh, the smell coming off it, super fruity and sweet. We're getting, it almost looks like it's been aged for a year, right? So you're getting these sort of dark, plummy notes. You're getting some sort of mustard greens. You do still have some silver beiges going on, but it's definitely of the palette, which is more in the darker, slightly aged look to it. And I remember that from the Maucha, and it was quite surprising to me. Compression is very nice. Let's see, I'm gonna weigh this out because I want to, when you're doing a back-to-back, it's important that you sort of treat each tea fairly. So that should be enough. I will wrap these cakes up later. Just gonna put the Gua Fung Jai to the side. And we're gonna immediately dive into Paradise Snapper. 2020, as I said, Gushu Sheng PuErh. The front cover is wrong. It says 2019. Silly mistake. Definitely lighter color. More of these sort of sage greens, silver greens. Yes, you're getting some of these mustard greens, and you are getting some plummier notes coming through. I love the Neifei there. Okay. Smaller leaf you can see as well. Remember, we've got that mix of Daiyezhong and medium leaves, the Zhongxiao Yezhong from Jingmai. Now, different areas of Yunnan, they have, you know, sort of people have over the time and over experience developed generalizations about the character of Xishuangbanna tea versus Linsang tea versus pu'er tea versus Dali tea. And they are all different, but this, what's amazing here is that even within the same region, Xishuangbanna, there is such a variation in terms of the, I'm not going to wrap it now, I'll wrap it later, in terms of the character, not just flavor, but also aroma, mouthfeel, and the sensation. Right, let me take two Gaiwans. We got the Stay Loose and Tea Lifted Gaiwans here. I'm just going to heat them up. We've got boiling water here. We're going to weigh it directly in the Gaiwan. I'm very conscious that when we're doing 2 tea tastings, I've got to be a bit quicker, otherwise this is going to be an epic one. And I know some of you like epic, but others do not. And certainly in terms of my editing, it's going to be a mission. Right, so pouring these away. So 2 hot Gaiwans, and now I'm going to get a scale out, and we'll see if I can eyeball 5 grams of this tea. So Gua Fung Jai goes into Stay Loose. All right, I'm going to try and guess it. I'm not going to look. Yeah, I reckon that's about it. What did I do? 5.43. Okay, not bad. And let me do the same here. Make sure I zero it again. And this is smaller leaf, so probably needs surprisingly a bit more. Yeah, 4.7. I misjudged that one. So we're going to do 5.4. There you go, 5.6, yeah. Thereabouts. Okay, right. Before the heat dissipates, let's get our nose into Gua Fung Jai. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do nose dry leaf, and then I'm going to focus on one tea, do a proper, infusion on one tea, so that we can get its character. You can't just flip back and forth without, getting to taste a tea and allowing it to build up minerality and compounds, nutrients on your tongue. Right. Holy moly. Super sticky and sweet. There is a little bit of dried orange in there, but I'm getting a lot of sort of deep forest honeys and prunes. There's like the honey note is so deep, it's almost in the treacly notes, like dark honeys or black treacle. The fruit note coming through is dried plums, prunes. It has a slight medicinal note, so you could sort of attribute that to more medicinal honeys. Sort of Chinese medicine note to it. In it, very, very complex and complicated. If you compare this with other iwus, for example, Shimmer Bliss Rodi or Office Gossip Juice, or some of the iwus that we had from Gaoshan village, delightful, smooth, easy drinking, sweet teas. This has a bit more spike and a bit more sort of texture to it in terms of the smell. Yeah, cooked prunes, black treacle, hawthorn, Chinese medicinal like hawthorn fruits, and just got a little bit more of a sort of woody note to it. Okay, Paradise Snapper. Oh, so different. Very much higher aroma. This is deep, sweet, sticky. The sweetness on it is more like a butterscotch or a blonde caramel rather than this sort of dark forest honey and treacle. And the oranges that were on the front cover of the cake, that citrus fruit is definitely there in full effect. I'm getting orange juice, a little bit of dried fruit, like I want to say sultanas or golden raisins sultanas, orange juice, butterscotch, deep, dark, black treacle, hawthorn fruit, bit of Chinese medicine and prunes. Okay, now as I said, I am going to, well, you know what, I'll do a back-to-back of the wet leaf and then we'll stick to brewing and tasting one tea at a time. So I'm going to rinse both of them, and Frog is in for a major treat here. I very highly recommend back-to-back tastings, especially with raw pu'er, because a lot of times, we've done a video about this, I'll put a link in the description below, with raw pu'er, because of the sort of complexity and ethereal nature of the aromatics of raw pu'er, it's hard sometimes to remember the differences between certain teas, so being able to taste them back-to-back is a wonderful thing. And I can already tell this is going to be a really interesting experiments to assess the difference that a couple of 100 kilometers makes. Less than a couple of 100 kilometers. I didn't measure it, but it's definitely less than a couple of 100 kilometers. Right. Oh, so redolent with sort of resinous, almost, yeah, sticky, resinous, plummy. There's also a slight sort of alcoholic note to it, like a plum brandy. For those people who liked our Midsummer Light Show, that aged white tea, it has a similar sort of plum brandy note. And it's just very adult. A lot of the iwus that you try have a very, I don't want to say childish, but a very gentle, enjoyable, comforting sweetness, sort of like cookie doughs and caramels and honeys. But this it almost has like a floral muskiness to it, like a deep in the deep forest. The biodiversity of Gua Fung Jai definitely seems to contribute to a very complex. I'm sort of imagining, in Chinese medicine, there are these fruits that are sort of dark and they're stuck together and you sort of peel them apart. They're very sticky and I don't know, I can't recall what they are, but it really reminds me of that. So when I say Chinese medicine, I'm not talking about those sort of ginseng herbs. I'm talking about fruity, like almost like you've taken prunes and you've treated them by, I don't know, soaking them in alcohol and then letting them dry. I don't know, but just that slightly more or a lot more of an adult note to it. I'm also getting some dried cherries in there as well. So sweet, so complex. Okay, here we go. Oh, so much brighter. Oranges coming through. Apples. Baked apples. Baked apples, no sugar on them. Baked apples. Maybe there's some sort of strawberry, like you've stuffed the apples with strawberries, like cooked strawberries, baked apples. The sweetness is much brighter, less of this deep, dense, sticky sweetness, more like a sort of cassis or grenadine. So baked apples with cooked strawberries, drizzled with grenadine, and that orange is still there. The orange peel, zestiness, totally different. Totally different. This one really smells almost aged in its depth. Okay, right, now we are going to be putting this to the side, and we're going to be giving Guafungjai at least one proper infusion before we go back to back. What's the temperature here? Make sure it goes up. We're going to be brewing at 95 degrees here and brewing for about 20 seconds, something like that. And I am so excited just by the smell. This is it's always a great day when we taste a pu'er for the first time. Tasting two, that's an extra special treat. And getting to do this A-B and understanding the difference in character, because you may have heard, if you're into pu'er, or you may already be aware of the sort of the characterization that Iwu pu'ers are very sweet and honeyed, whereas west side Sichuanbana around Bulang area and into Jingmai are more sort of a little bit more bright, a little bit more sort of complex aromatics, a little bit more astringent potentially, a bit more structured and mineral. Right, here we go. That went up to 100 degrees, so I'm just gonna put it into a Gongdao Bay first. That will knock off about 5 degrees and pour it in over these leaves. And I am not going to stopwatch it as usual, but we'll see how I do. We want about 20, 25 seconds on this. Iwus tend to be quite forgiving. Bulang teas, Hekai, and those, they tend to be less forgiving. You've got to nail it, otherwise you can build up too much of that astringency. Okay, it's probably about 25 seconds. Why did I put it through a filter? My brain is not working. I need tea to rewire it. We'll do annoying, I can see some of the texture in there. Anyway, we're gonna have to factor that in. It's not gonna be as thick as it could have been. Right, cheers everybody. My first taste of Gua Fung Jai 2020 Tub Highness. Texture. Medium thick. Could have been thicker. We'll class it as medium thick. We'll see what the second round is like. The taste is just opening up, With these larger leaves, and you could see that they were quite big leaf, maybe could have left it a bit longer. I'm getting a lot of nice body and mouth feel, a slightly oily texture in the mouth. Soft, oily, sweet sweetness is a little bit more herbaceous than the note on the nose. I want to sort of say like sugared, like a syrup made with dill, you know, a little bit like gripe water, a sweet herbaceous note. But the sweetness is starting to develop. Texture in this is gorgeous. It's soft, it's oily, it's round, but there's enough little, you know, tingliness, and there's enough movement and physicality and pulling and on my tongue that makes it more interesting. Let's brew it again. We're now at 97, so I can hit it direct. Oh, this is just getting going. Juicy sweetness coming through. It's pretty special. Has a sort of strawberry, you know those strawberry candies or sweets that are sort of spongy and chewy. I don't know what they're made out of, probably nothing that great, but sort of like, yeah, very childish strawberry candies, chewy candies. Aha. Now it's starting to wake up. Let's check out that color. Deep color for a short brew. Ooh, lovely. Amber golden. And it's remarkable considering it was a light first infusion. The length and longevity in my mouth, the sweetness, but also this very floral bouquet is coming out like a rose sort of face cream. Actually, if you look at the cover, let me quickly do a quick wrap up here. You can see that the duck, the mandarin duck, is sitting in a bubble bath, but, you know, surrounded by sort of flowers like jasmines and white flowers and creams and oils, and the sort of bubble bath note as well. That we found in the Mao-cha that it had that sort of, yeah, like a face cream floweriness to it, which we really, really loved. And you can see that deep dark honey there. And also we found that it had a sort of poached pear Danish note coming through, which I haven't picked up yet, but we'll see if it comes. Sweet. Now I'm getting a movement, so it hits, I'm getting this mineral sweep coming across my tongue, very, very understated, lovely sort of gentle caressing of minerality that just sort of gets a zingy feeling, gets a little bit of that mouth feel, a slight sort of desire to have a sort of chewy sensation in your mouth. I'm getting those hawthorn fruits. I'm getting strawberry, those strawberry candies. I'm not getting any pear yet. I'm starting to get a little bit of that honeyed note in there. So the dill sugar syrup is going a bit darker, a bit deeper, but the texture is very, very balanced texture. It's soft to oily in the mouth, moving to a light sweeping of minerality and that juiciness and chewiness at the end, but it's very, very light. Yeah. Hard to put my finger on that dried fruit. I'm saying dried hawthorn fruit, like those hawthorn flakes, but it's deeper than that, it's darker than that. One more sip of this. That the flowery note is there, but it has a slight like sweet musk note happening, like not like an animal muskiness, but like you know how some face creams or some flowers can have a musky note. Sometimes you get perfumes with that very sweet muskiness. It's such a lovely tea because of the fact that it is sweet and easy drinking, but complicated and adult at the same time. Oh, I love the balance in the mouth. a very elegant, balanced tea, right? Let's smell the empty Gong Dao Bei. Oh. I'm getting that sweet musk still there. And that's mixed with some sort of sea salt caramel or almond brittle. An almond brittle. So that hard, like it snaps and it has that sort of dark blonde color to it. Flowers, I don't know which flowers are musky, but there's that sweet musky flowers like jasmine, I guess, but it's deeper than that. It's less sort of sweet and bright than that. It's deeper than that. We're going to go back to it and have a taste, but obviously we need to turn our attention to Paradise Snapper, to understand now how all of those aspects of terroir that we talked about and the processing makes a difference to the tea. Of course, as I said also, even though they're sort of classed under the same cultivar, they're heirloom cultivars, they're seed grown, so the genetics are going to be different, the microgenetics in the area are going to be different, and the genetics of each plant are going to be slightly different. So 300 to 400 year old estimated Gushu. Again, actually, that was 100 degrees, so I should do the same thing. And then allow that to cool down. Although I think that that's taking a little bit more than 5 degrees off. It might be more like 10 degrees, which is probably why the first infusion of that iwu was a bit light. Although, as I said, it was just waking up. Herkai we've purchased before many times, Jingmai we've purchased before many times, but we've never blended the two. And our thinking behind it was that we wanted some of those very high, very zesty, very bright aromatics that comes from Jingmai, and we wanted to give it a little bit more of that Bulang, Herkai, what's the word? Edge to it. Color of the liquor, lighter, more golden, although it is the first infusion. Paradise Snapper, my first taste. Cheers. So different. Clean, crisp. I mean, the analogy that I would put is this would be like a sort of a dessert wine, and this would be one of those beautiful, crisp. I don't know enough about wines, but maybe more close to a sort of a Sancerre style stoniness or a Chablis style stoniness to it. It's definitely more mineral. It's definitely, the texture is medium, so it's going to be slightly thinner than the Gua Fung Jai, but it's all the better for it because its character is bright, its character is zesty, its character is rocky, almost sort of. I'm picturing sort of wild islands, rocky coastlines, you know, not cold, but like, you know, warm summer air hitting like a volcanic sort of island coastline. It has a taste of those sort of mountainous, that sort of mountainous environment. I'm getting a sweetness. The sweetness is not in the honeyed notes at all. It's much more in sort of like a little bit of a resinous mastic gum, maybe in the more sort of, yeah, mastic Middle Eastern sort of Turkish delight sort of sweet note rather than sort of honeys and treacles. Although there is definitely a fruitiness happening here, and the fruit is, as you would expect, that zesty, orangey, mandarin, sweet grapefruit, pink grapefruit, but I would say more in the mandarin note at the end. When the tea is in your mouth, I'm getting cooked strawberries. Yeah, very definite cooked strawberry sweet strawberries. And the texture in the mouth afterwards is a lot more physical, more pulling, more juiciness. It's just more reactive, it's more physical, and that's one of the things that you would expect. Iwu is a very easy drinking tea. It's as I said, very forgiving in terms of its brewing. This one here, you got to nail it. And this is pretty good because if you go too far, you will pull out too much physicality, or, you know, depends on what you're looking for. But I love this crisp quench that's happening on my mouth right now, and it suits that zesty note that you saw on the front cover. Oh, second infusion, hui gan now really flooding through. When you get that astringency and dryness, not really any bitterness. It sort of it's there like it comes and it sort of doesn't even threaten. You sort of notice it passing in the background behind you. It's sort of like it just sort of just strolls by. You're getting a little bitter air, but it doesn't stick around. And I'm getting a lot of juicy physicality and sweetness in hui gan. Rocky. Oh, refreshing, bright, bracing. This would be my, I want to like have a pick-me-up session. And I have a sensation just in the taste and from my experience that this is going to have more of that, it's going to have a little bit more of a physiological effect in terms of potential a tea drunken effect because of its physicality in the mouth. Don't forget that these are genuine gushi, 300 to 400. The Guafungjai is old tea trees, 150 to 200. So whilst it is still old, valued material, there's an extra level in the Paradise Snapper in terms of that age, which may contribute to more of this physicality. But simply through my experience, that area, Hekai area, that all of that, those mountain areas around Hekai, they tend to give a lot of a physical sensation. Wow. Okay, let's smell this empty Gongdao Bay. A little bit of slate, a little bit of almond as well, but the almond is more like an almond cookie or an almond biscuit rather than that more caramelly, fudgy, no, caramelly like almond brittle, I said. No, this has an almond biscuit. It has a sea salty sort of air to it, sea salt caramel to it. It's sweet, but it's also very much still in that mineral note. This is like eating like ice cream next to the sea in terms of on a beach which is not sandy but like a rocky beach. None of this, the marine note, but just that hot sea air and that the rocks and the sweetness is, yeah, like almond biscuits dipped in sort of slightly resinous mastic ice cream. Right, we're going to brew one more infusion of both of these. I definitely think this is going to, Paradise Snapper has given me, so obviously I've tasted this one, now tasted this one, so I'm trying to work out, is my body sensation, you know, more a combination? And of course it is a combination. But my feeling is that the reaction that I had to this one, I'm getting an instant heating sensation. Check out the brewing notes. Once I've tasted these properly, I'll write full tasting notes. I'll put them on the website so you can see what my thoughts are regarding body sensation. Right, let's brew both of these up. Gua Fung Jai, He Kai Jing Mai combo. You can now see the difference in color directly. Yeah, more honeyed, more golden, deeper compared to this more green looking. You could have guessed that just from the leaves. Wow, that hui gan strawberry note in my mouth. In fact, you know what I want to do, and this is something that you should do sometimes, is just drink a little bit of water and see how sweet the water tastes, because I have a feeling that this is going to be very, very sweet. Oh yeah. It's like I've added like half a teaspoon of sugar in there. It tastes so sweet. That hui gan, they both have amazing aftertaste, amazing sort of finish. The physicality of the Paradise Snapper is very, very pronounced. And that leads to this very, very sweet note. Right, here we go. Gua Fung Jai, what a luxury day. Getting this incense note, like sweet sandalwood, sweet resins. I'm still getting that herbaceous sort of dill syrup, but lots and lots of honeys. That pear note is starting to come through. It's sort of, it needed to get a bit greener in terms of its flavor as it starts to bring out some of that material inside the leaf. Definitely getting this poached pear sweetness happening. This is a luxury tea, a luxury tea. It's soft, it's oily, moving to this blanket, light, dry minerality and juicy sweet finish. And again, this somehow a sticky dried fruit. And I need to sort of, I want to say like very, very sticky dried dates or prunes. Bright, zesty, but also a little bit creamy. I'm getting that mastic ice cream. I'm getting sort of a vanilla ice cream note as well happening there as well. And definitely more physical, more pulling, more chewy. I want to do this with my mouth and I want to wet my palate again. Vastly different in terms of their aroma, in terms of their taste, in terms of their sensation, in terms of their finish. I can't judge body sensation right now. As I said, I have a suspicion that this one is stronger. This one's going to be a little bit more gentle, but they're both Old Tree to Gushu Raw Sheng PuErh 2020 fresh. So they're all, both of them are going to pack a punch, but probably the Paradise Snapper is going to have a bit more potency. I'm going to sit now and drink through these. I'm going to write more refined tasting notes and then I'll sit and drink them separately so we'll get accurate body sensations. You can go check them out online. I highly recommend doing a back-to-back to really understand how just less than a couple of 100 kilometers can make to the experience of two spectacular teas. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the supreme stuff and spread the word because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.